terms of S. Hobson is, and this is a common do we or don't we, you take your chance, in terms of blitzing a good quarterback. And if they pick up the blitz, then we're screwed. But we got to create a pass rush. Can we get home with 4? Obviously, they didn't in the first game. You don't want to be predictable, all those things.
I think that, how much more does Georgia blitz is a deeper question than just 6 words. There's multiple ways to blitz. There's corner blitz. There's, are you going to rush 5? Are you going to bring a linebacker blitz from the outside, from the inside? Are you going to bring the house? How are you going to blitz? How often are you going to blitz? What is the game plan is really the question. I think the game plan, more likely than not, is going to be that Georgia is going to play more aggressively. I think where Georgia was playing a little bit more contain than they were playing aggressive. I think they were trying to make him throw the ball and basically kind of create havoc. I don't think it worked well. I think that if that was the first time that Georgia hadn't, well, that was the first time Georgia really had not been able to get after the quarterback. And was that the first game where Alabama had success in keeping the quarterback clean? Yes. So I think because of those two things, you have to question how aggressive Georgia was. I think if Georgia goes back to a normal game plan where they're really trying to get after the quarterback, I think they'll be successful. I think the amount of the blitz that happened in the first quarter and a half are going to determine how they're going to play the rest of the game. What did this guy just say? Michigan would have played great against Alabama. Michigan didn't respect Georgia. Bama respects Georgia, and other teams did the same. The results would be different. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think Michigan would have destroyed Alabama. I think it would have been 50-3 Michigan. You're absolutely right, sir.
Unless something leaves a player's mouth, we don't know who respects who. We can only guess who respects who. And if Michigan did not respect Georgia before that game, number 1, I don't believe that. Number 2, they would be complete fools. Number 3, maybe they didn't. And I just can't imagine. Then they're not paying attention to anything that's going on in college football. They're not paying attention to what's going on this season or what's happened in any other season. And not to be this simple about it, but if any team from any other conference doesn't respect a team from the SEC in a bowl game, but especially a playoff game, then again, they're not paying attention to anything that's going on.
I would agree. Michigan was, and I'm not trying to trash talk Michigan, and I really don't want it to sound this way, but at some point you have to call it like it is. Michigan was outclassed and outcoached. They just were. This was a bigger, faster, more dominant team, and the fact is that in this game, one of Georgia's defensive linemen, Jordan Davis, ran down the Michigan running back. Not caught, not reached out and stopped him from running up the gut. Jordan Davis punched through the line and then ran down and caught the running back. And he's probably 100 pounds heavier than the Michigan running back. That kind of dominant performance is really whenever I looked at the game and went, this game's over. Georgia's just bigger, faster, stronger. It just is.
Yeah, Michigan's best player on offense, and I somewhat remember that play, but I don't remember which running back it was. But Michigan's offense, their best offensive player, not most dynamic, but their best offensive player is Hassan Haskins, their bell cow of a running back, but he's a between the tackles running back. So he was pretty much eliminated from the game. Like, his usefulness against that defense is out the door. And they were just not, they weren't good enough. Of course, they were also just a bad matchup. Their strengths were not a good matchup, and their weaknesses were just blatantly exposed.
Now, one thing I do want to point out, because I'm sure there'll be some Michigan fans that come on here and watch this, and this, I do want to toot my own horn on this, because I caught a bunch of comments and a bunch of flack for this comment. I said Aiden Hutchinson was going to be a non-factor, and he absolutely was a non-factor. Georgia did exactly what I said they were going to do. I'm going to pat myself on the back for this one because I've seen it happen before. Aiden Hutchinson, whichever side he lined up on, Georgia went the other way every single time. So all you have to do, if you have one elite player on the defense, which is other than the cornerbacks are dedicated to a job. They're not going to be rushing the quarterback very often. They're just not. Aiden Hutchinson's job was get the quarterback. They would line up on the right side. James Cook would block him. He'd line up on the left side. Zeus would block him. It didn't matter. And they made him a non-factor in that game. So for those Michigan fans out there, I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying that Georgia had a game plan for him, and that's what it was, and it worked out to Georgia's favor. So,
yeah, he is still going to be a top 5 to 10 pick in the NFL draft. So, but they certainly took care of him. There's no doubt about that. Rob D, thank you so much for the list of quarterbacks that have beaten Nick Saban. So I am aware of all those players, but I still will just let you know I've got that type of mind. It's not brilliant by any stretch. I'm not selling it as brilliant, but I'm one of those that just keep an encyclopedic kind of Rolodex up there. So I know all those, but I appreciate you. Just because I just named a few and I didn't name all 16 that have beaten Nick Saban, but thanks for the rundown. I do appreciate it. Rob was trying to make the point that average quarterbacks have beaten Nick Saban.
Yeah, so I see a lot of people here talking about that. He's only had 16 losses in 9 years, something like that.
13
losses in 9 years. 16 losses in
13 years.
Nice. Well, he's the greatest college football coach of all time. I don't know what else to tell you, but here's what I will tell you. In 6 years, Georgia has only lost 15 games, and half of those roughly go to Alabama. You take Alabama out of that equation, Georgia's like 16-8. So Kirby Smart is absolutely a quality coach. I think he's averaging something like 12 wins a season. So he's not a bad coach at all.
Urban Meyer lost 9 games in 7 years at Ohio State. Dabo Sweeney, I just ran the numbers because I was doing some type of video. He lost 6 games in 6 years when they went to those 6 consecutive playoffs. So I'm not discounting Nick Saban. I believe that he's the greatest of all time as well. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying it can be done elsewhere.
Well, I do want to throw a little bit of salt on some Alabama fans. I think it's important to point this out. While Nick Saban looks like he's in his early 50s or late 50s, the man is 70 years old. I'm not sure how much longer he's going to coach football, because even at 70, I would imagine all of the traveling and up and down stairs and planes and all that other stuff, it's got to be tiring. So all you Bama fans that are out there jumping up and down, beating your chest, clock's running. Kirby Smart's what? How old is Kirby Smart? 40 something years old? Let me check real quick. Should know this.
Kirby Smart. When was he playing with
46.
Georgia?
He's
okay,
46.
Okay.
So that means if Nick Saban retires in the next 2 years and then Kirby Smart continues to coach until he's 70, that means Georgia will have 22 years of Kirby Smart in addition to what they've had so far. That might be scary if you're an Alabama fan, because your reign of terror may be over sooner than you think.